In this episode, I am speaking with the amazingly talented and powerfully positive Sean Garner. Sean is a business coach, and he is going to share what it meant to be a dad and a successful entrepreneur. And he's going to dive into why not everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur should be an entrepreneur. He's going to tell you the deciding factor. Sean will also share what defines a good and successful entrepreneur from those who struggle. And he's going to help you learn how to recognize a great opportunity when you see it. Discover the key to making quick, reliable decisions, using your family as perfect leverage in making those right decisions, and understand that no dad is perfect, and that's okay. Discover the power of creating positivity and understanding that words have power. This, my friend, is a powerful episode. My conversation with Sean Garner starts right now. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the DMD podcast. My name is Cam Hall. I am your host, and I am excited to dive into our conversation today with a special guest. Now, I'm always excited with our guests, but I know that today's episode is going to be special because today I get to speak with and welcome Sean Garner. Sean is an amazing guy. Sean has a gift of communicating in a way that inspires, challenges, and empowers. And if you truly want to become a difference maker, you need to hear Sean share his story because you'll learn so much about leadership in your family, decision-making, and faith. I guarantee that you will leave this episode with a new lens through which you will make decisions, which is my goal. The Dad's Making a Difference Mastermind and podcast is dedicated to helping men become a difference maker in the lives of their families, in their business, and in the community around them. It is my goal that with each episode, we will give you practical and actionable information and steps that you can implement in your life so that you can truly become a dad making a difference. If you are new here, welcome. It's great to have you. If you are returning, I appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you're listening today and this conversation brings you value in any way, please pay it forward, share it with someone you know, post it on your social media, tag us at Dads Making a Difference. Sharing this episode could be the one step that inspires someone else to become a dad making a difference. Now, I get razzed a bit on my long intros, but I need to give Sean the intro he deserves because I believe it will paint a picture and build a foundation for our conversation today. Sean has had an extensive career as a fitness professional and now business coach. Sean has reached hundreds of thousands of people with his videos, podcasts, trainings, and through his online platforms. Men's Health magazine named Sean one of the top trainers in the world. And you see this guy, he's a beast. Yet Sean walked away from training, managing, and operating in world-class gym facilities so that he could work from home and have more freedom and time with his wife and his children. Sean now mentors and coaches others to create digital streams of revenue so that they too can avoid burnout, fulfill their purpose, provide for their families, and create a life of freedom. I could go on and on, but I won't. You've heard enough from me. Sean, welcome to the Dad's Making a Difference podcast.
Well, wow, man. That's, I feel like we really set up, hopefully not for disappointment, and hopefully we can add some value to people. That's a heck of an intro, brother, but thank you. I am honored. I love Cam, and I've been connected with you for years now, followed you on social media, never met in person, but just this is one of the positives of social media is getting ready to connect, able to connect with awesome people like this. So I'm pumped, man, and hopefully we drop a lot of value and just help some people out today.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Thanks again for being here, brother. I just want to get started, Sean. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, where little Sean grew up and where you grew up, your journey, and then we can have more of a conversation about how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Oof. I'll try and give like the quick highlighted version. I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where if people aren't familiar, it's like dead in the middle of America, pretty much, a little bit on the southern side. Born and raised in this area. Honestly, growing up, I was a skinny skateboarding video game dorky kid. Like, wasn't athletic at all, didn't play any sports, just played video games and like a little BMX bike and skateboarder around the neighborhood, like tried to be like the little cool emo punk rocker kid. I wasn't even good at that because I'm like such a happy person. So I wasn't even good at being emo.
Why is that guy smiling all the time?
He doesn't, I don't think he gets it. Like you got, imagine like the kid with like the skinny jeans, the Weezer t-shirt and the spiky bracelet where he's got this. Couldn't pull off the look very well, but anyway, met my wife, was my high school sweetheart. We met our senior year of high school, ended up going to Bible college together. I studied youth ministry for a couple of years, thought that's what I was going to do, and actually worked as youth pastor for a couple of years, and then ended up moving back to Tulsa, where I was from, to take a job at a ministry. Their funding fell through, so it kind of led me down this crazy career journey, which went from like restaurant manager to EMT school to becoming a firefighter to then I had all this free time. And so then I started opening up gyms, and then I opened up more gyms, and then sold the gyms and thought I was going to leave fitness, and then ended up moving our whole family across the country to Miami, Florida. And I ended up starting all over as a personal trainer and worked my way up to general manager of this gym. And then whenever I did that, got connected with tons of things in fitness, man, where I started growing my own personal brand and got connected and did a lot of cool stuff with Men's Health Magazine as like a writer and fitness advisor, did a lot of really cool stuff in fitness. And as I was doing that, my whole passion, and honestly why I even got into fitness, was because I wanted to have a business. I didn't necessarily like get into opening up gyms because I wanted to be a trainer, but I want to have a business. And that was something I was passionate about. And everybody says, well, follow your passion. And so I followed that. And what I liked most about that was hiring and training my staff. So bringing on other trainers and telling them what I had learned. And so as that kind of evolved, and I had moved to Miami, and I had created this online, like personal brand, if you will, with what was called Project Dad Bod, which is how we originally connected. Then I started having my friends and other trainers asking me how I was doing what I was doing. And since I had the experience of owning the gyms and businesses in the past, I was just sharing them what to me was just basic stuff that I was doing to build this brand and to build this company and everything. And so that ended up to where, just like I had the passion in fitness originally with training other trainers, I got to almost do that again. I was like, well, this is more fun teaching these other trainers than it is actually like, working with the online fitness stuff. And so that evolved to what I do now with Entrepreneurial coaching and consulting, to where it's business marketing coaching, working with the solopreneur to the small business owner to help them with their marketing messaging and building systems out that actually scale so they can stop running around like they're chicken with the head cut off. And yeah, man, we've since then, about 2 years ago, moved back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we're from, and we're here with family. We're loving it, man. And it's been a journey throughout that whole process. My wife and I had 3 kids along the way. We've got Hadley, our oldest, Aubrey. Hadley is 9, Aubrey is 7, and then Corbin, our boy, is 2. And so we're busy. Both at home entrepreneurs, own several little businesses together, and just going through life, trying to figure this thing out. And I occasionally get to do awesome things like talk to Kim Hall. So
I love it, man. I love it. You're busy. You and Courtney are busy. You were outnumbered. Kim and I stopped at 2, but you got 3.
You go from man defense to zone defense. So now,
I love it.
So it's typically like it's a transition. So like our son, he's awesome, but he's for sure a mama's boy. So like she takes him, I take the older 2 girls and everything. And you got to go zone that's where it gets tough.
And I've seen videos of you and your kids. And if you're following Sean on social media, or if you're not, you need to, at Sean Garner. But if you're not following, awesome stuff, the activities you do and the adventures you go on. I think there's a little bit, we have a connection somehow. Is one of your daughters born on February 16th?
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter's also born on February 16th. She's 10, so she's a year older. So I saw that post. I was like, oh, cool. So, hey, I want to unpack some of the stuff you just shared. And you went through it in about, felt like 45 seconds. But I want to dig into some of this because, a lot of people would be like, I want to hear about Sean and his training. And we'll get there. And we'll get to the business stuff. But as a dad, as a husband, as a leader, as a business owner, you went through a lot of pivots, man. You went through a lot of transitions. You started as a firefighter and then ended up training. You spent a little bit of time in a contest on TV, and then you ended up in a boutique high class gym in Miami. Like, I'd love for you to dive in a little bit to what you were going through in some of those pivots.
Yeah. I would say that ever since I was from a young age, always had this entrepreneurial like fire inside of me. I grew up very, very poor. My dad always like encouraged me to be an entrepreneur and to go into business for yourself, but yet like strangely, like he never did. Like he had a like very low paying job working for the city and everything, but he always from a young age instilled that into me. So I was never like shown, like I didn't have like a family business that I took over or anything like that, but it was always instilled to me, like from a young age. My dad like beat it into me. He was, you know, you always want to impress your dad and everything. And so he beat it into me. Like he was always more impressed with the entrepreneur that didn't go to college versus the person that, you know, went and had their college degree and they just went and worked for some company. And so I always had that inside of me. And I think because of that, I've always looked for opportunities. And when somebody asked me what before, like in the past, like what I think defines a good entrepreneur or what makes somebody successful as an entrepreneur. Because I will say this, like quick side note, I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. I think that we live in a age and a world and a time right now where it's easy for anybody to do it, but not everybody can and not everybody should, because it definitely takes a different mindset. But what I think makes a good opportunity is somebody that is able and they're able to do things others can't or others won't, and they see things in a way others can't. So for example, like you might be able, one, you have to be able to see opportunity. So you have to be able to see, like you called it a pivot. You have to be able to see and know when to pivot and see a possible opportunity, because a lot of times people will just chase the shiny penny thing and they won't really maybe realize all the steps that it takes to actually achieve that thing. But one thing I think that has always been a strong suit for me is to be able to look at a situation and see that there's an opportunity in it, and not necessarily just the upfront thing, but see a couple steps later about how I could leverage this one step to a bunch of other steps. So I think that really helps with making decisions and being a good entrepreneur. And the other two things is they're able and willing to do things others can't or won't. So that means one is they have a skill set that just other people just don't. Like you think about like medical providers and stuff like that has like an actual skill set, like other people just can't do that. So obviously there's going to be an opportunity for them in the marketplace that way. The other way is people that can do things that others aren't willing to do. And that's where you hear like the entrepreneurial grind and stuff like that. Like this is not like a false humility thing. Like, dude, I'm a poor kid from Oklahoma. Yeah. The only thing that I can say that was like my secret is I have been able to identify and see opportunities, and I've always been ridiculously hardworking. And well, I shouldn't say always.
Try to be.
I try to be, but there was we can go into marriage stuff later. But when we first got married, I was very late. I was still that lazy video game playing kid. But once I had that wake up call, I've been extremely hardworking. But then honestly, it's God, man. Everything I have is because God has blessed me with this, and I just try to do my best to listen and not screw it up.
What was the wake up call, Sean? Now we're listening. We're like, oh, Sean got married. He's playing video games. What was the wake up call?
So I got my wife and we've been married 17, it'll be 17 years in a couple of months. And we got married 19 years old, like right out, like after our freshman year of college, we got married and everything. And I was still a kid. Like I do not want, like one thing I would say if like people see my stuff on social media, like, oh, you must always been an athlete and always worked out, always been disciplined. Not at all. Like even when we first got married, I was that skinny, like video game playing dork kid. And for some reason I talked my wife into marrying me. Like I told you, I went through a 45-second journey of all the different things I've done. When I met my wife, I met her in high school. She told me what she was going to do that day. And 17 years later, she's still doing it. Like,
yeah, there you go.
She's like, oh, I'm going to go to Bible college for a couple of years. I want to get a degree in missions because I like to do medical missions. And then I'm going to go get my bachelor's degree, and I'm going to get my master's degree of nursing, and I want to be a nurse practitioner. That's what she does.
Yeah, good for her. Yeah.
For me, man, I joke with her all the time, and now thankfully she's just along for the ride. I'm like, babe, I don't know what I'm going to be doing next month. Like, we're just along for the ride. We're looking for opportunities. But so what happened one day is I was this video game playing kid, and my wife comes home from working as a nursing assistant, and I'm at home on the couch playing video games, and she gets home from work, and 19 years old, both struggling, poor college students. Like, it was a big deal for us. We joke about this now, but it was a big deal if we bought like a pound of ground beef to put in like some spaghetti sauce. Like that was we're living
there,
life,
man.
And she just came home, and I remember she just looked at me and she's like, if you want this marriage to work out, you need to man effing up, and you need working to provide. And I was like, yes. Okay. And so that was my light bulb moment to where I was like, okay, that like was a punch in the gut from several things. Like, one, like that was a freaking reality check. And it was also a reality check from somebody that you love more than anything. And she like called you out on everything. Like, yep, I'm doing a pretty crappy job as a husband right now. So that made me want to like that shifted me into like a road of what became, I would say I'm a recovering workaholic now. I think it was such a huge shift for me. I went from one extreme to the other, and I was like working like crazy. And, but it got us to be where we're at and everything now. But that was a huge wake up call for that. And I think that drive and that conversation of like, you don't want to be a failure, especially to your wife.
Right.
That's what kind of helped me to make those decisions. Like you talked about all those different pivots and stuff quicker. I was always then looking at everything from a different opportunity and kind of a different angle of like, okay, well, how can I leverage this opportunity to provide for my family? Because that became the whole driving focus. It wasn't just about like how much money you can make and stuff like that, but it was like, okay, well, how can this better the family? Because I like to think about it all as like legacy, and it's not just what I do. Like, I'm okay. Like, my wife and I talk about this all the time. Like, I'm okay with sacrificing some of my personal fun time, especially for the past, 10 years as we've really been going hard and building all this stuff up. I'm okay, especially now, knowing that I sacrificed a bunch of like personal fun time to where now I have laid the foundation for a legacy for my kids. Like, I'm okay with suffering a little bit so I can leave something back behind for them.
Man, I love that. You said we put in all that time, and now this is where we are today. And people see the today, but they don't always see what happened before. They don't see, the changes that you were making as a family, that you and Courtney, I'm sure, made together, to uproot your family and go from Oklahoma to Miami, where, I'm sure in different parts of your life and people's journey. And here's the dangers of social media. People see the outside and they think everything's great, but they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Right. So people reach out to me and they're like, man, I love this and how you're doing. I'm like, man, you don't know the work that's going into this right now. You don't know the struggles and the tears that Kim and I have had together, over finances early in our relationship, and the driving force. Like, we met when I was doing Fight the Dad Bod, and, you said you wanted a business. I needed a business, and not so much that I wanted at that time. I needed it. Like, we needed to provide, we needed to do more to pay the bills. Right. And so there's always a driving force, but people see the now, they don't see the then. And I'm sure when you went from firefighter to Miami, that change was a little bit different than when people saw you on your social media and you're working at the gym and you're doing and they're like, man, this guy's got it made. Now he's managing this new location, and like, look what he's doing. And then there's the change, and next thing, Sean's living in Oklahoma again. What happened? And but look at him now. He's got it made. But they don't see the tough decisions that had to take place and the hard conversations that had to take place. And I'm sure you and Courtney did that together, right?
Yeah. So 100%. There's somebody that I love. He's a pastor and a leadership guy named Craig Groschel. And, he says that all the time, like,
life
compare your behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel. And that's exactly what social media is. All is highlight reels. Nobody's going to post, hey, we almost didn't pay our bills last month, guys. Like, hashtag blessed. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right. It's true.
It's all fake stuff, man. But 100%, like, I think that, and honestly, I don't know if there's a best way to do this. The only thing that I know is, seek God, especially whenever you're married. Seek God and make decisions together, because if you're not equally yoked on these decisions, that's going to easily put some type of wedge to where if it doesn't work out perfectly, that could be easily used to rip apart your marriage and to start fights and just, rip down, what is the most important thing, which is the family. And so you have to be on the same page whenever you're making those decisions. And I'll be honest, like there's been a couple of like big, huge of those pivot moments where we didn't know how it was going to work, but we agreed to take the risk together.
Yeah.
So the first one was whenever we moved from Tulsa to Miami originally. We had a gym, it wasn't doing well at all. Our marriage was just coming out of a horrible, horrible season of where I had honestly had walked out on the family at that part. And our marriage was like a year back into this healing process. And everybody said, don't move. Like, you guys need to be around a support system, around the family and stuff like that. Business was failing. We didn't have jobs or anything. And we just both wanted, honestly, a fresh start. And so, okay, if we can fresh start anywhere, where should we go? And we kind of narrowed it down to a couple of places. We both ended up like, and this is how quickly the other thing about my wife and I, that one of the things I love most about her is we both make decisions very, very quickly. And so like we made the decision and executed the move to Miami within 6 weeks. Within 6 weeks,
Wow.
we said, let's move to Miami. We sold everything we wanted. We closed down our gyms. We both found jobs. And within 6 weeks, we were living in Miami, moved halfway across the country, found the kids new schools, everything. We moved super, super quick. But we knew when we moved, there was no guarantees. I was going to work as a trainer, had no client roster, brand new city. It's 100%, you eat what you kill type of a thing. So it's commission only. She was starting all over at a different medical practice where it was a very similar type of a setup where it was kind of commission based on the patients she saw and everything. So moved across the country and started from nothing. And I remember my wife said before we left, her name's Courtney. She said, I'm scared, but I have a peace, because she said, I feel God is saying that it's going to be stressful to get down there, but once we get down there, we're going to be blessed. And we held on to that promise, because the first 6 months, like, she would call me every day crying. We made a mistake. I can't believe we did this. And the first 6 months we lived down there, like me, I would cry all the time at work. Like, God, what did I do? Did I just ruin my family even more? And then at about 6 months, like little blessings and opportunities and stuff started happening. And now we both 100%, like, Miami's like a second home. We love that place. And we were dramatically, I haven't calculated out, maybe it's a 10X, but we were like way 10X financially blessed, spiritually blessed, relationally blessed with like our marriage, with friendship and everything, because we did hold on to that. And then the other pivot point was the exact opposite. Was then, it's the middle of COVID. We're living in downtown Miami in this beautiful high-rise condo, but everything is shut down. So we're locked in there with 3 kids. My wife's like, I think we should move back to Oklahoma. And I'm like, what? Like, I plan on dying in Miami. Like, I love that place. And I was like, listen, she took the risk on me to move down there to kind of restart everything. We've been down there 4 or 5 years, I think. And I was working, I was doing full-time consulting and everything. I knew I could work anywhere. That was the pro. I was like, all right, she has this idea of this thing that she wanted to go do with her medical clinic. And I was like, let's do it. And I remember driving the U-Haul from Miami back to Oklahoma and just praying, like, God, I hope this is right. Like, and we were so blessed. Everything was going so well in Miami. And then same thing. It was about 2 or 3 months whenever we first lived here. We were having to live with our in-laws while our house was being built. But then same thing, like that same 10X thing that we had when we went from Tulsa to Miami, because we were obedient and we were like equally yoked together. Same thing happened. Like, I just remember as I was driving, the closer I got to Oklahoma, I started feeling more and more peace about it. And then once we got here, I was living in a small little bedroom at my in-laws' house. And I was like, all right, God, I don't know what you got going on, but we're going to do this. And now we've been here. It'll be 2 years next month. And this has been the most blessed 2 years of our lives. Like, as far as like financial opportunities that have come up, like getting plugged into an awesome church, our marriage is doing great. Our kids love it here. We're closer to family. And it's just, the only reason why is we had no guarantees either way.
Mm-hmm.
But we were in alliance and an agreement to be willing to take a risk together, knowing that at the end of the day, like if you're seeking God and your marriage is strong and you guys are focusing on those things together, from the world's perspective, something could not work out. But as long as those things are a priority, everything is still going to work out. Just might not be how you thought it was going to be.
Man, I love it. You and Courtney clearly took some chances, and people would say risks in the decisions that you've made for your family. I've spoken to guys, men, fathers who want to make a big change. You might be speaking to one right now too, but it's almost like they lean on their family as a crutch or an excuse not to make that change. Instead of the reason for making the change. You said, every decision that we've made like, how can I better provide for my family? What's better for my family? And it sounds like every decision that you made, you were together. And, Kim and I, our relationship over the last few years has become so much more strong and robust because we're able to just break down barriers, to just have open conversations with each other. And one of the things that I talk about often on here is growth. And I believe that we should always be committed to growth, right? Growing in our lives. And there's an importance in that growth to have boundaries. But, those boundaries can also act as a filter through which you can make decisions. And as you're sharing your story, you've hinted at things and you turn things over to God before you make decisions. And I love that filter. But as you aspire to make a difference, as a dad, as a husband, in your family, in your business, in your community, in your church community, do you have a filter that you put your decisions through? And what is it?
Yeah, there's this book that I use just for everything. It's been around a long time. It's called the Bible. And
I love it.
We're on the dad podcast. We can have dad jokes. But that's what it is. Like, yeah. I'm not perfect. Dude, I screw things up all the time. My marriage is not perfect. My being a father is not perfect. My business is not perfect. My life is not perfect. But I think what makes it pretty awesome is, one, I guess, being aware of that and always work towards it. And like, I do try to run everything through the filter of what God's word says. Like, it literally is a blueprint for life and for success to all those who find it and apply. Like, listen, man, I'm not like this super, like, I'm just like laying hands on my mouse and everything. No, you have to do that. Like, that's how I start off every morning. And my wife can tell, like, some people are like, don't talk to me until I had my coffee. Like, for me, like, I'm like, don't talk to me until I have my quiet time. Like, I have to come into here to the office, shut the door, and the kids know if the door's shut, dad's in there reading and praying, just leave them alone. Cause I need that. Cause if not, I am a grouch. Like, I know that has to be like the foundation and pillar to my day. Because if not, like, probably going to be a dick. Sorry. Like, I need God. Like, I'm not perfect.
We are more alike than I thought, Sean.
But like, I need that time, because that just helps me get centered. Because if not, like, especially in this plugged in digital world, like, you're just going to get inundated with everything. And hey, guess what? The internet's not full of the world's most positive stuff. So, but if you start your day with a good positive foundation and everything, and plugged into the word and everything, like, to me, that's what helps to filter. And I didn't always do that. So don't think like I've always done that with all of my decisions. And then even like going back to what you said, like, yes, Courtney and I will eventually get aligned on something, but I mean, okay, there's going to be some fights and some arguments possibly until those things happen. But it's always like, my wife and I, we say this all the time, like, especially like if we're fighting about something, we'll have to sometimes like pause, like, same team. Yeah. You're both on the same team. You want the same thing. It's just, especially whenever my wife's a very strong personality as well. Like, if you're both trying to go the same way, you just have different, it's like a map. Like, you can get to the city the same way, but or that the end result's the same, but you might want to take different directions to go there. So you just have to sometimes pause and remind each other, we're on the same team. And that's what I do.
Yeah. And at the risk of you having to give the same answer, I still want to ask you another question, because if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're watching video of this, Sean could also almost be accused of being the only person who smiles more than I do. And you're a guy who always seems, focused on being positive. You're upbeat. I love somebody. I would be like, oh, I'm going to check out Sean's social media. I don't spend a lot of time on social media these days, but I'll go on. I'm like, oh, he hasn't posted in a long time. And you will come on, and your only post in like a 3-week span will be, you just get on and say to people, you are awesome. And it just speaks life into people, right? You've had some dips in your journey. We all do. We all have ups and downs, and you've had many wins too, which is incredible. I'm so happy for you and your family. What is Sean's secret to finding positivity, and what encouragement can you give to, the listener who right now wants to become a difference maker in their family, but struggles a little bit with the positivity right now, given everything that they've been berated with and dumped on over the last 2 years?
Check. First off, you are awesome. So how about that? You know what? This is, I love my dad, and we have, since our relationship is improved a lot since I was growing up. He wasn't a bad person. He just wasn't super involved in my life. One of the things, unfortunately, if you meet me and you meet my dad, we are the complete polar opposite. And this, I'm not saying this is the world's best thing, but my dad says this all the time. He'll be like, listen, if I couldn't have served as a good example, maybe I served as a bad example for you. So I grew up with my dad being the exact opposite of what I am. Every time something happened, like anytime there was an opportunity, about somebody's probably just going to take advantage of me here, or this probably isn't going to work out. Like I bet it's going to cost more than what we really thought. Like no good can come from this. Like this quote, I remember hearing this quote all the time growing up. He'd always say, no good deed goes unpunished. Like I heard all of this stuff, and I saw how my father's life worked out. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not a smart man, but I figured, okay, if that's what saying that stuff happens, what happens if I do the opposite? And my dad, he used to joke with me all the time. And now I think he realized that, hey, maybe my son was onto something. Like, you just live in this fantasy world where everything is awesome. And, everybody's having an awesome day. And he's like, it's not really like that. Well, I think it can be. So because of seeing that, I almost made me want to default to be the extreme opposite. And then I did that without having any type of honest foundation with that. And then obviously, as you get into the word and you read the Bible, hey, life and death are in the power of the tongue. It's not necessarily the things that you think or that you read, but it's the words that you speak. Your words have life as you're speaking. If you're speaking into your marriage, I'm like, oh, she never listens to me. She doesn't understand. Like, hey, guess what? You're probably going to bring life to that. Like there's a whole spiritual rabbit hole you can get down with that. But if you speak something and you have the power to create with your words, just like God created the earth with those words, like you can create that bad stuff into your marriage. But if you speak positive and you speak life into everything, hey, guess what? You're going to have life with that. So there was that aspect that I figured out. Then when I moved to Miami and I started working as a personal trainer, and I was training literally some of the most successful, wealthy people in the country, if not the world. Yeah. I listened to how they spoke. I listened to how they talked to people. I saw how they lived their life. And everybody like, well, of course they're going to be positive because they're making all this money and stuff like that. But I don't think it's that. I think it's they have those things because of how they are and they act. They respond to opportunities. They look at things. They do speak life into things. There's so much power in your words. And I think I just saw that firsthand with the good and the bad. There's the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I almost saw that with how people spoke their words. I saw the people that were really successful were speaking life into everything. And I saw the people that were suffering were speaking negative into everything. And so I think because of that just made me who I am, to where now I am super optimistic because I can see the good and the positive in almost everything. I think that's one of the things that's helped to identify opportunities. And as an entrepreneur too, is okay, it might not have worked out financially how I expected it to, but I learned a lot from this opportunity. Maybe it was learn what not to do. But I don't know. I'm just not like that. And I think a lot of it had to do with just like how I was raised and what I saw growing up. And then now it's embedded in me because of what I know the Bible says. And so now I just speak life into everything that I do.
I love it. I love it, man. I love that you said, yeah, I don't know everything. I don't know all the answers, but I can look through it through this lens and it changes things.
Yeah.
I have a mentor who I connect with regularly, and he always say a good word. It's kind of his thing. He's just like, and he's from the South, and he has an accent, and everybody in the South who hears me speak think I have a weird accent, but he'll say, "Hey, Cameron, say a good word." And I asked him why he said that. And that's what it was. It's like, when you open up and you speak positively into the lives of other people, you can't control how they take that, but that the chances they take it pretty good.
Yeah.
Because people don't hear enough positive. People don't see enough smile. I go to the local Y to work out every day, and I'm walking in like this with a smile on my face, and people look at me like I am some sort of freak. Like, who is this guy smiling at me? I'll smile, say hello. Yeah. But you know what? 9 out of 10 of those people kind of smirk, smile, and say hello right back. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole, I love that approach.
Whenever I first went to Miami, if you guys have ever been to Miami, it's a lot different than Tulsa, Oklahoma. Everybody thought I was some type of a con artist because they're like, why is this kid so happy all the time? I don't get what's his angle. What's he trying to get from us? And then like they got to know me. They're like, man, this guy's just happy all the time. Like it takes a while for people to see that it is like pretty organic. And this is just how I am. Because listen, man, if you have there's very few things that you have true 100% control over. And one of them is just how you perceive things. And if you want to sit there and you just want to like think about all the negative and darkness and stuff that's in the world, like, hey, guess what? I bet your life's feeling pretty negative and dark right now too. But I know like just our family, for example, we went through COVID, and that was like the past 2 years have been the most blessed years we've had. And it's not because we were, doing anything right or wrong. Well, I think we were doing something right. We were speaking life into everything. We were trusting God with everything. And we weren't just like watching the news all day and dwelling on all the negativity and stuff like that, because that serves you no good at all. I tell my clients all the time, I let them vent and I complain typically for like the first like 3 minutes of a session or something, if they're talking about something. And afterwards I'm like, so how's that thought serving you? Like, oh, that's really not cool. So what would happen if we changed that and we focused on it and spoke it like this? Like, okay, like whatever. But there's power in that stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get close to closing, there's a question I'm always eager to ask dads, So as your kids continue to grow, your family continues to grow, but you grow as a father, what are some areas of growth right now that you've committed to, and what are you excited about right now?
Oh, well, I would say so for sure for the areas of growth that we're committed to. Are you talking about me as a father or what?
Yeah, you.
Yeah. So for me, I am trying to be a better man for my wife and for my kids. And so for me, like we were talking about it just before we got onto this, like I've been getting plugged into tons of men's group. Like we've got a local group here called Mountain Men, to where, we meet monthly, then we go climb a mountain together. We go experience God. There's the book we were just talking about before, Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. I've started diving into that whole stuff. Like I love his whole program and everything there. And we're starting a Bible study over that, but just like finding out what God's word says that I'm supposed to be doing. So it's like, I feel like I've got several areas like quote unquote figured out. But that's one of those ones where I don't think you ever have it figured out, like being a husband and being a father, because it's always at a constant state of evolution. Like as you get deeper into marriage, like your struggles are different. Like now it's like, okay, well, how do we raise these kids together? How do we like balance family work life together? And then same thing with parenting. It's like, once you think you got infants figured out, well, now they're toddlers. And then once you think you got that figured out, well, then they're in elementary school. Yeah. And like, so it's always growing. And so like, you have to always be growing and learning and stuff with them. And because of everything that's in the world, I want to make sure that, going back to the big thing, like now that you're making me think about it, we do speak a lot of life in this house, and we speak a lot of life over our kids. Like that's the thing that it might sound like an oxymoron, I yell at my kids the most about, is them speaking negative. I'll hear them like say something across the room, like they'll be doing homework. And I'm like, I'm just so dumb. I can't do this. I'm like, hey, don't say that. Speak life. You are smart. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're a child of God. And like, I'll speak that stuff over because they're hearing all this junk and stuff. And there's so much comparison syndrome and stuff with things like, especially they haven't gotten into social media yet because they're not that old. But once they do, man, I want them to know who they are. I don't want them to have to find their identity through somebody else, through a relationship or through somebody else. I want them to know who they are. So that was the big thing that I think that we're very much committed to at our house is being like, I don't think I'm the world's best parent, but one thing that I try to do really well is I listen to everything they say. And as soon as I hear something that I'm like, oop, that's not from God, that's not positive. Like we nip that right there because I want them to be able to know how powerful their words are. So making sure that they're equipped with all the tools that they have to where, you know, they're reading verses and they're speaking that life over themselves and to their friends and stuff like that. I think that's for us, that's the most powerful and important thing you can do.
Awesome. Sean, thank you, brother, for doing this. I appreciate you. Speaking life into the people who are listening to this today. And if someone is listening today and they want to find you online, connect with you, learn more about you, where can they do that?
And the best way I would probably say on all the platforms I'm most active-ish on Instagram. It's just at Sean Garner, SeanGarner, or like small business owners, solopreneurs, man, looking to any help with marketing and just scaling their business. And just honestly, just like what you were saying, is just building a business that serves them and their goals. And you're not just creating like a box to live inside. And that's what we do at Entrefit Coaching. So you can just check it out. It's entrefitcoaching.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. I wish you and your family well, and I can't wait to see what life has in store for you.
Thank you, brother. Love you and have an awesome day.